I'm often asked by people, what are some of the best practices of coaching salespeople on their sales calls? And one of the most effective ways I've found is actually getting salespeople to coach themselves. What do I mean by this? Well, there's so much to be said for self-reflection in helping to drive behavior change. We're more likely to change quicker if we can actually self-diagnose and self-critique ourselves, and we can identify what we did wrong, without having to be told by other people. This is no more true than in sales conversations. So just to bring this to life, I had this call shared with me by one of my sales reps. I listened to this call, and before I did anything else, before I gave any feedback, I actually encouraged the sales rep to listen back to their own call and to pinpoint where they felt they could have done things differently on this conversation and explain why. The key here is I'm looking to see of how self-aware they are and how much could they actually self-diagnose. What are their mistakes before I pointed this out myself. What was quite interesting in this specific example is the salesperson actually identified all three key areas that I was going to point out myself anyway. The first one being that they were using the word thank you in their conversation. And this is one area that we've been working on recently, where overuse of the word thank you from a salesperson's perspective can make us sound a bit too needy sometimes, and almost puts us on a different level to the prospect. And they'd identified that they'd use the word thank you where it maybe wasn't necessary. They identified that their value proposition, their opening part of the conversation, was not enough problem focused. It was more benefits focused, and to the extent that they'd actually rewrote what they would have said next time round if they were going to actually do this call again. So great to see the salesperson actually stipulate exactly what they would have said next time round in that instance. The key part of the call here was the third moment in the conversation, where the salesperson has identified that they didn't ask the right questions when they faced the objection that the prospect threw at them. So here is that moment, just to bring this to life.
Yeah, probably last year sometime, and I don't think it was for me, to be honest with you. At the moment, anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Would there be a better time for me to reach out?
It's not going to be this. Well, probably do it towards November, December time when things quieten down a little bit.
So, in summary, the prospect has said, "I think I've spoken with your company some time ago. It wasn't for me." And the salesperson has then asked, "When will be a good time to pick this up?" The three things that the salesperson self-diagnosed themselves of what they could have done differently next time around is, first of all, clarifying who the prospect spoke with and how long ago specifically was that. Not to give up so easily, and to actually probe, why did he feel Refract wasn't for him then? And that was the key, is to ask, what was it that made him feel that Refract wasn't suited to him? And maybe that was maybe there was a genuine reason behind that. Maybe he didn't truly understand exactly the value for him. And finally, if I'm going to make contact with this prospect again, what would actually have changed? What would be any different? These three key things on this specific coaching moment of the call were the exact things that I was going to point out anyway. So what can you learn from this? Well, actually, the majority of the time, salespeople actually have the answer themselves, and self-critique is actually one of the quickest and fastest ways that they're actually going to achieve that behavior change that we're looking for.